مساء الخير واهلا بكم الى حلقه جديده من واشنطن اونلاين. معي انا هدي العويس على شبكه نورث بريس. كيف يرى فريدريك هوف مبعوث امريكا السابق الى سوريا عمليات التطبيع الاخيره بين الدول العربيه ودمشق؟ وكيف يقيم هذا السفير الذي كان مصر مع اداره الرئيس باراك اوباما على ضروره تغيير النظام السياسي في سوريا؟ وكيف ستؤثر هذه التغيرات الأخيرة بين الدول العربية ودمشق على العلاقة الأمريكية مع قوات سوريا الديمقراطية والإدارة الذاتية؟ هذا ما أبحثه في حلقة اليوم مع ضيفي السفير السابق فريدريك هوف، ينضم إلينا من واشنطن. ابقوا معنا للمتابعة. أهلا وسهلا بك ضيفي معالي السفير فريدريك هوف. حضرتك شغلت منصب مبعوث الولايات المتحدة إلى سوريا في فترة حساسة جدا، وهي فترة اندلاع الانتفاضة السورية. كنت في إدارة الرئيس السابق باراك أوباما، هذه الإدارة التي كانت تخبر السوريين أن الرئيس السوري سيرحل في أي لحظة وأنه يجب أن يكون هناك عملية انتقال سياسي في سوريا. كيف تنظر اليوم إلى المتغيرات على الأرض السورية وخاصة التطبيع بين الدول العربية ودمشق؟
Well, one would certainly. First of all, it's a pleasure to be with you. One would certainly hope that there are limits. One would hope that if Riyadh is absolutely determined to restore diplomatic relations with Damascus, that it gets something from Syria for this gesture, and there is no limit of the things that Saudi Arabia could be asking for with great justice in return for such an important political gesture.
هل تعتقد أن التوجه الأخير في السياسات الخارجية السعودية، خاصة مسألة المصالحة مع طهران ودمشق، لا علاقة له أصلا بالشعب السوري ومطالب الشعب السوري، وأنه يتركز على رغبة السعودية بالابتعاد عن المشكلات مع إيران وحلفائها والتركيز على رؤية 2030 في السعودية؟
I'm not 100% sure what Riyadh's motives are in doing this. I had the great pleasure several years ago of getting to know the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Faisal bin Farhan Saud. He is an extraordinarily impressive and thoughtful person. I would love to have a conversation with him and understand fully what Riyadh's motivation is in all of this. There has been some speculation in American media in particular that it has something to do with Riyadh's perception that the United States is in the process of withdrawing from the Middle East, which it is certainly not. But in any event, I think the position of the Biden administration on all of this is, if you're determined to do this for whatever reason, please get something substantial for it.
من يسمع بيانات الخارجية الأمريكية اليوم في عهد الرئيس جو بايدن لا يعتقد أنها تغيرت كثيرا عما كانت عليه في عهد باراك أوباما، وكأنها لا تأخذ بعين الاعتبار المتغيرات على الأرض السورية. هل يكفي أن تقول الولايات المتحدة يجب أن يكون هناك عملية تحول سياسي حتى تحدث عملية التحول هذه؟ هل تملك واشنطن من الأدوات ما يمكنها من الدفع للتغيير فعلا في سوريا؟
I think for the United States to have an appreciable impact on the question of political transition, the United States needs to be seen as acting in a much more vigorous way toward Syria. I think the perception in the region, whether it's fair or not, is that the United States really doesn't care much about Syria, one way or the other. I think this is very unfortunate. But at the beginning of the Biden administration, it became clear that there would be for example, no special envoy for Syria. It was clear in the administration's preliminary national security guidance that the Middle East itself was barely a footnote. So while I think these gestures toward normalization are extraordinarily unfortunate given the circumstances, I suppose in some way they're understandable.
هل تعتقد أن تقارب الدول العربية مع دمشق هو أمر مقلق بالنسبة لقوات سوريا الديمقراطية والإدارة الذاتية؟ هل يخفف هذا التقارب العربي مع الحكومة السورية من التزام واشنطن بشراكتها مع شمال شرق سوريا؟
You know, my suspicion is that even if Riyadh goes ahead with the normalization and opens up an embassy in Damascus, this will not translate into opposition to American efforts to keep Daesh suppressed. I just don't think it will go that far because I think it's in the interests of the Saudi kingdom and all of its neighbors that the United States and its local allies prevail in northeast Syria and put an end to the threat of Daesh. One of the ironies here is if anybody should succeed in getting the United States to leave northeast Syria, this would be a dream come true for Daesh because its prospects of restoring itself in northeast Syria depend very heavily on the Assad regime and its Iranian allies being the enemy. For Daesh, this is the enemy of choice.
كان هناك أنباء عن محاولة تركيا لاغتيال قيادات من قوات سوريا الديمقراطية في مطار سليمانية، قيادات كان يرافقها أصلا جنود أمريكيين، شخصيات من الجيش الأمريكي المتواجد في شمال شرق سوريا. ما مضمون هذه الرسالة التركية للولايات المتحدة من وجهة نظر حضرتك؟
Well, I must confess, I have no firm information that would confirm a Turkish role in all of this. I would hope, however, just as a matter of course, that the United States and Turkey remain in close consultation on this subject. Obviously, since 2014, the United States has taken steps in the northeast of Syria that Turkey has opposed vigorously. The United States and Turkey have great differences rooted in an American decision in 2014 to use the YPG, eventually called the Syrian Defense Forces, as the principal ground force against Daesh. In that role, the Syrian Defense Forces have performed well, but their affiliation with the PKK remains for Turkey a matter of great concern. So I hope that somehow resolving this, and I would not expect a resolution until after the May 14th elections in Turkey, but I hope that this remains a significant priority in the U.S.-Turkish bilateral relationship.
هل تؤيد فكرة لعب واشنطن لدور الوسيط بين حزب العمال الكردستاني وأنقرة بعد الانتخابات المقبلة لخفض التصعيد في منطقة حيوية ومهمة جدا بالنسبة للولايات المتحدة وخاصة شمال شرق سوريا التي تتواجد فيها قوات أمريكية حتى اليوم؟
What I can say is that I certainly hope that a significant effort will be made in this direction. I think the peace process that existed until several years ago was very promising. It was making some progress, and I think that ultimately this is a big segment of the answer to a problem that has bedeviled U.S.-Turkish relations for several years now. I don't know. I don't have sufficient insight into Turkish politics. I suppose that if President Erdogan loses the election, a new Turkish government would give serious consideration to reviving that peace process. But I don't rule it out for Erdogan as well. It all depends on what kind of if he survives as president, what kind of a coalition he would have to put together in the parliament.
سيد هوف، بعد كل هذه السنوات من الحرب في سوريا تمكنت روسيا من إقناع الدول العربية برؤيتها الدبلوماسية للحل في سوريا، والقائمة طبعا على إعادة العلاقات مع دمشق. هل يجب أن تفكر واشنطن بسوريا كمحور أساسي للتنافس الدولي بينها وبين القوى الكبرى اليوم مثل روسيا والصين؟
I think the United States should indeed place much more emphasis on the Syria aspect of its policy toward the Middle East, and indeed its policy toward the world. The reason I say this is that in the past, Syria, in some respects, has served as a sort of graveyard for America's reputation in the region and globally. It was our failure, for example, to stand up for the red line on chemical weapons declared by President Obama, that really, I think, encouraged Mr. Putin in Moscow to think that he could move on Crimea a year later, less than a year later, with very little pushback from the United States. I think even last year in 2022, when he was making the final preparations to invade Ukraine more broadly, Mr. Putin, based largely on America's performance in Syria, came to the conclusion that essentially he had nothing to worry about. Like the case with Syria, the United States would make some emotional speeches in the United Nations, would decry verbally the violence taking place, but would do nothing. So for these reasons, I think it's important for the Biden administration to reassess the amount of effort it puts into Syria, given the role that Syria has played in destabilizing the world.
شكرا جزيلا لك معالي السفير فريدريك هوف، كنت معنا من واشنطن. وفي الختام شكرا لكل من تابع واشنطن أونلاين. ألقاكم في حلقة جديدة الأسبوع المقبل، إلى اللقاء.